So let's get started. So yesterday we've been using file manipulation operations. We did functions, lambda functions, then exception handling, and what else we did yesterday? Yes, loops and all. Right? No, until exception handling. All right. So file management is remaining. We'll start with it. So what is file management is we have to store data on our system sometimes, like storing any string or any type of data in a text file or any kind of file like CSVs, or we have to read data from it. We have CSV files for, let's say, a test case is written in it and we have to read it. So to how to open a file in Python and how to read elements from it or write in it. So we'll see that. The simplest method to open a file in Python is just using open inbuilt method. So let's say I'm creating any object named file equal to open. Then here I will give the path for our file. Okay, so let's say I'm creating a new just a regular text file. Sample.txt. Okay.
Text file.
Yeah, you can create any file, or let's say there isn't any file. So we'll get to that. What if there isn't any file which we try to read? So right now we have this sample.txt file. Let's just pass it here, sample.txt. Now if you see, these both files are in same directory. So I will try to see if this function can run or gives us error that file not found or anything. Just try it. Okay. Yeah, actually. Yes. So right now I just provided this file's name. So what this function will do is look for this file in the current directory where this day4.py file is residing. Okay. Right now, what if I have a file in another directory? So for that, yes, for that we have to provide complete path for that file. Yes, like start. If you click this sample.txt, and here you can see copy path or references. Then there is an absolute path which starts from completely start of the directory. So even if you pass it here, it will read that file with no errors. Here you can see there are no errors. Right. Okay. So just write it. You can access file with absolute path also. Okay, so this is just simple opening a file. So now we have this file, and always remember, when you open a file you have to close it. So to closing a file, it's simple, just file.close. Now we have closed this file. Now why are we doing this, or what's the need of this? We'll get to that within some time. Okay, so now we just open file. Now what to do with it, right? So there what operations we can do on file are like read lines or write lines into them, right? So let's say my file have a line saying hello world. Okay. Now I'm opening this file here. Now I want to read data from file. Read data from file. Now to read data from file, what you have to do is just print file dot. As you can see, when I tried read, there are multiple options: read, read line, readable, and read lines. Now, what are the different like what's difference in them is, when you say read line, you can read only specific number of lines in the file. Now our file has only one line, right? Only single line which contains hello world. Now if I say read line, it will just it will read one line at a time, because limit is default to 1. Or if I pass limit equal to 2, then it will read 2 lines. And read lines will read all the lines in the file. Okay, and read, let's say what read will do. Read should read actually all data in file, and I will tell you the parameters of it. Yes, so read is reading like complete line right now. So what if I want to read just first 2 characters of file, right? So read will accept the number of characters you want to read. Now let's say I want to read first 5 characters. Let's say I will write it here. As you can see, the first 5 characters are hello, right? So read functions can accept the number of characters you want to read. Now let's get to print file dot read line. Now, as we have only one line, the output should be just hello world. Oh, right. Now, why this happened? So what's happening here is when we try to read the cursor, which from which the file we are reading the file. This is the cursor, right, which is blinking. Now, when we say we have to read only 5 characters, this cursor like iterated over here, and it was here only when we did another operations on file. So when we said read line, it will just read line after this cursor. So that's why this is happening. If I just comment out this line, and we'll do it again. So
how can we reset that particular cursor?
Yeah, so there are seek functions. File dot there must be seek. Yes, seek. Now you can use seek to just throw it at the 0th position, like at the beginning of file. So there are multiple opening methods how to open file and for what reason. I will tell them just within a minute. Okay, so this is how read line is working, and for read lines, as you know, let's say here is a line. Okay, take 4. Let's say read lines. Now here, read lines is returning list of each line. Now this /n is a Unicode object written for new line, right? It just appended without any knowing. When we press enter, /n gets appended automatically. Now what if I say read line and pass 1 to it? Let's see. Oh, so read line also calculating only characters. Okay, so all right. So read line can only read 1 line at a time with number of characters you have to fetch from that line as a parameter. So read line cannot read multiple lines. So I was wrong at first. Read line can only 1 line at a time, and the parameters it can get is the number of characters you want to read. Now the problem is what's the difference between read and read line. You can look for it. I will also look for it because when I didn't know these two are working same. So I will just read for differences between them. Read and read line. Okay. So now, we are doing just reading and all, but how do we specify we want to read the file or write into file, or we just want to append data at the end of the file?
So if we don't mention the number of characters in the read line, so will it print the complete line?
Yes, it will print complete line.
Irrespective of the number of characters.
Yes. Like here, let's see.
We can use range here.
Like for printing from specific characters, we have to try. Like, let's say what read line accepts. So as it accepts just limit, not the start point, right? So I guess we can't. It will just read lines from the cursor we have right now. Okay, so what if we so for starting from somewhere, you have to seek the cursor to that position and then read line from that and just give limit. So that can be the way, but we can look for it. If we just did read line, it will read just hello, sorry, world, because we have been already reading up to 5th position. If I don't give position, let's see what happens. Okay, so what file read did is it read the first line up to /n, and then cursor moved on to the second line. The read line will be reading second line. So now there are operations which we can do on file, right? Like read, write, and append. So how do we specify? We have to specify what operation we want to do. Now by default we are just reading this file, but what if we want to write it? So can we write a file without mentioning its opening format? Let's write file dot write. Let's say I'm writing here is a line and 3 exclamatory marks, right? So there is an error which is saying unsupported operation not writable. So as this is saying not writable, so this file isn't open in write mode, it's just in read mode. So you can only read right now. So when you want to write into any file, you have to specify the type of operation you want to perform on this file. So how to do that? We have already closed this file. Let's open it again in write mode. So file equal to open, then file name or path sample.txt, and then give another parameter, which is the method in which you want to open a file. So let's say I want to open in write mode, write for W, and for read mode there is R. Let me just write here, read is R, then for write W, and for append A. Okay. When we do R, we cannot write lines into this file, but if we did W, then we can write lines into this file. So file dot write. Now this writable object returns if we can write into the file. So if we have called this method in above code, like here file dot write, before file dot write, we should have been getting false because we cannot write this file. We didn't open it in returnable mode. Now here we are specifying we have to write this file. So if I call this writable, it should return true. Let me just close it first. Oops, not writable. Oh, sorry. Yes, true. So it's saying we can write into this file. Okay. Now, so I have to write 3 colons, right? Oh, okay. Now, but file is blank right now. Why this happened? So what happened is, when we open a file in write mode, so whatever the content that a file has will get truncated. Okay, so it's just a blank file right now. And if I did W plus, so why this plus stands for, I have to read to and write. Like I have to read and write. Want to do these both operations. So you can write W plus, or if you write R plus, then it will also does the same, read and write. You can do both. Now let's see, I'm again writing here hello world. Control S. Let's see, I will first file dot read, then file dot write. Okay, so opening a file using write mode is just truncated at first, like it's truncating the file, whatever the reason. I mean, even if you have to first read it and then write it, if you are opening in write mode, it will just erase all the data from it and will give you a completely blank file. If I did R plus, let's see what happens. Oh, sorry. If I say hello. Yes. Now, what difference R plus and W plus have is, now R plus can, if file already contains the data, now we are opening in read mode. So right, so data shouldn't get truncated. As we are seeing here, it's printing hello, so data didn't get truncated. It's already there in file, and it still is there in file. And plus stands for we can write into this file also with previous data. So that's why file.writable is also returning true. But if you did W plus, which means write and read. So as we have seen earlier, write operations will truncate file, no reason what you have in there. Okay. So that's the difference between read and write. Now let me write print file dot write and 3 exclamatory marks and file dot read lines. Oh, 10. All right, so read lines return blank string because the cursor was at end of the file. When we wrote this exclamatory mark, the cursor was at end. So I will do file dot seek 0. Okay, so any doubt till this point, right? And there is another method which is append. So what append does is opens file and automatically moves the cursor at the end of the file, and you can write anything. It will just append to the previous data. You can do this using r plus also, but then you have to seek the pointer at the end of the file. Okay, so there is not much difference between r plus or writing and appending. Both are same, but append will add the previous data in it. Write will append with truncating the previous data and completely writing new data. Now, what if I give another file named like, let's say I want to open a file which doesn't exist in my path. Let's say hello.txt with read mode, file.close. What should happen? It should give error, right? Or it should, or should it create a file and then open it for us? Right, it gives error because no such file or directory found. But if we say we want to write a file, then it won't give error because you have to write it. So even if the file doesn't exist, it will create a new file by that name. Let me just run it. As you can see, there is no error, and there is another file hello.txt created here automatically. So when you write in, when you specify the write mode, it will create a file if it doesn't exist. If you try to read a file which doesn't exist, then it will throw error. So that's how you have to manage these exceptions. If you're reading a file, make sure it exists. And if you're writing, then even if it doesn't exist, computer will create it for you. Then why are we doing this file.close every time? Now what happens is, when you open a file multiple times, then there can be some error, like you cannot open multiple files at a time, because then it will create a confusion system to work on which object, right? So let's say I will write a for loop for in range, and let's open a file for 1000 times. File equal to open hello.txt. Let's see what happens. Oh, it ran. Nice. Let's open it in W. Okay, so it's not giving error right now, but well, I want to run loop for those many times. So I was just trying to see if we are opening same file for multiple times. It should have given a given error for like multiple objects to the same file. It's not giving, so maybe it's managing it somehow. But if I just try to write it, let's say file.write. Okay, nice. So it's working. But the basic idea for doing this closing file is, if your file is open and doing and one computer is doing any operations and second system is using the same file and doing another operation, then there can be the ambiguity, like which operation to perform first. If a computer one is operating on same file and computer two is also operating on same file, and both are giving write operations, which one to write first and which one to read first. So that may create confusion. That's why you always have to close the file, right? So if you close it, the another program won't fail to open that file. This can happen if you if your file is open, then another program may throw error that your file is already open, and it may create a confusion in program. That's why you have to close it. But every time you open a file, suppose let's say you forgot to close a file, so but it's not a good practice to like keeping file open, right? So that's when context manager comes in a picture. Where is it? Context manager. Now what context manager is, it will handle opening and closing file for you. You just have to perform on data. Now how to use a context manager is, with open file sample.txt as file dot read. That's it. Just delete this file. Just comment out this code, because it will just create hello for multiple times and be writing it. Okay. Now what is happening here is with this with is a keyword. With open sample.txt. Now this will open a file, right? And we'll assign it to a file object as file. So as you can see, it's like basic English. Open, you have to open a file and consider it as a file object, and then perform any operations on this file object here in this indentation.
So object can be anything.
Yes, it can be anything. Let's say I'm calling this I, so I just have to say I. If I run it here, hello, same data. Okay, now why are we using this with operator will be sorry, with keyword is used for context manager. When you write this line, it will open a file, and when the indentation closes, see here, print done. Now the working with this file is done, right? Because we are exiting or indented a paragraph, and we are writing another line of code. So this will this context manager will automatically close this file for it. Like this file open is happening here, but file dot close will be happening internally, implicitly. So you don't have to care about closing file every time you open it. That's why we use context manager. That's it. Let me just plug in charger. Okay. So is there any problem till now with file operations or any doubt? Right. Okay. So you can take it as assignment, like creating a file, writing data in it, then reading the same data from the file, manipulating it and writing it again. Just right here. Create a file, write data, read data, manipulate data. Okay. So now next point, which is OOP, object oriented programming. Now this is a big topic. I don't know if we can cover it today, but we'll cover up to whatever point we can get to. So the first thing is abstraction. So what is abstraction is, kind of abstraction is like whichever operations you perform on any data, so or any let's say machine, you don't have to care about how it's performing its operations. You just have to care about what I'm giving input and what I'm getting from it, right? Like a coffee machine, you just provide milk or anything and you don't care what's happening inside. So that's an abstraction. Now, why we do abstraction in programming languages, you have to specify what I want to do on specific data, and so that the whoever implementing that method will just implement somehow on each edge. For example, let's say there is a class shape, and for shape we have to calculate area, right? So now a rectangle can have a different area formula and circle can have different area formula. Now this area can be the abstracted method, right? So it's same for all of us, like for all the classes, and anybody can write any code within it. So it just so we can say that area is an abstraction, right? Or shape class is abstraction. Now before that, before going to any of this abstraction or any OP concept, we have to start with class. So class and objects. What is a class? Class is a collection of objects, you can say. It's a representative of one specific entity which can contain attribute and methods which can be performed on its data. So how to define a class is just write a class keyword, okay, then give a name for our class. It's a best practice to keep the first letter capital. So let's say person, or let's say animal. Right. Now we have defined this class, like, and now I want to define attributes for this class and methods for this class. So obviously they're going to be indentation. So colon and then enter. Now we are indented to class animal. Now what animal have is let's say animal is having name, or let's say attributes. Attributes and class will have attributes and methods. Let's say we have name, then age. These two are attributes, and methods are, let's say, fly, walk, swim. Okay, animals can do this thing, like not all, but some of them. Right. So what is attributes? Attributes are just variables which are defined for our class. So it's same as variable, but for which can be used only in our class. Okay, so how to instantiate these variables, right? When we have created class and when we create object of our class, this all attributes should get initiated. So then there comes a inbuilt method which is called init method, which stands for initialization of our class. So we'll just define a method in our class, init method, init underscore. As you can see, there is a self keyword already. What is this self? Self is just presenting this class itself. It's just pointing to class itself. Now this self can be anything. This self is not a keyword. It's just a what we can say. It's just a variable. Now we can say a. It doesn't matter. You can give him name him anything. But self always we keep it self because it improves readability in all of our code. When someone is reading your code, whenever they self, they know what it's pointing to. It's just pointing to our class itself. Whenever we want to use any variable of our classes, we will be accessing them using self. Now I want to initialize name and age. Right, so basically how we create an object of class. Now let's say this is our class. We haven't defined any attributes and method yet. We have been just defined initialization method. So whenever the class will get created or object for this class will gets created, this method is going to run every time.
Every time when I create a class, I need to
Prathamesh, hello.
It will execute automatically. Yes, Lakshmi.
Is it like constructor you meant to say?
Yes, it's a constructor.
Okay.
Uh,
And
yes.
one more thing, it is written like this only, kya? Dash dash init and dash dash.
Yes.
This is only the syntax.
Yes,
Okay.
this is only the syntax.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Got
an inbuilt method which is predefined, and every time you create object, it's going to call. It's like a constructor. Whenever you create an
Yes.
object of class, it's going to execute itself at first before any other method.
Yes. Yes. Got it. Thank you.
Let's say I'm creating an object dog. A dog equal to animal and parenthesis. Now what this did is we provided class name and then parenthesis, right? So what this does is it creates an object of our animal, right? Using dog we can access the attributes which we are going to define in our class or methods which we are going to define in our class. Now this dog can have name and age, right? So we can pass name and age here in object definition. So let's say the dog has a name Jack, its age is 30. Oh no, sorry, 5. Okay, so we have to accept these parameters here also. So I will be writing name and age. As you can see, whenever our object will get created, this init method is going to call, and this parameter object parameters are going to be passed here. Now we have to define them in our as our class attributes. So we are having a name attribute. So self dot name equal to name. Self dot age equal to age. Okay. Now self dot name. Okay. So self points to our class itself, right? So animals. Now animals dot name. So animals doesn't have name variable yet. So what initializer will do is it will just create another attribute for our class, which is whose name is or variable name is name. Okay, and assigns the data which has been passed to our object. So this here is in parameters of init function. Right, so now this is how you can create an attribute for our class. Now our class has two attributes, name and age. I will create another method here, def, let's say speak, or intro. This will print.
We can also take input from user.
Yes, you can. My name is here self.name. Okay, so basically why are we creating this all is class may represent to multiple objects, right? Because animal can have multiple animal class can have multiple types, dog, cat, or any type of animals. So all of this can have same attributes also, like name and age. All of them can have name and age. So for to manage each of this attribute, or we can say object for dog and cat, we are writing a class for them. So all of them can access their data from here. They all can be created from this single class. So that's why we say class points to multiple objects, right? Class consists of
Init method is same for all the classes.
yes, init method is same for all the classes.
But,
No, speak up.
yeah.
So even if you don't write init, there won't be any problem. But then you won't be able to initialize this attribute. So then let's say if you have a default attributes like let's say uh, address, right? Now we aren't providing address here because we aren't accepting any our init functions, and we are just defining it in our class. Now address is also attribute for our class, okay, which has a default value Pune. So whatever the object you are creating from this class, let's say dog or any other object, all of them are going to have address attribute as Pune. So this is a completely static declaration. Now we have created init function or init method because we want to define our own attributes. So that's why we are writing init. So even if you won't write init, there won't be any problem. But for initialization of our class, we are writing it.
So def says function start with that.
Yes.
But we are calling method means.
Yes. Right. So there are difference between function and methods. So what functions are? The functions are defined outside of any class. So the functions which aren't inside class are just functions, but the functions which are inside class are methods.
There are multiple methods in class.
Yes, class consists attributes and
only
methods.
One init method.
Yes, only one init method. Now,
Prathamesh, hello.
yes, Mandar.
ये जो हाँ, it's like ये self है जो like it's instance, right? तो we can write anything or वो just declaration का syntax ही है वैसा.
No, you can give self name as anything, right? Like I can pass a also.
Or initializing, yes, right.
Yes, but actually we are passing self for readability. That's all.
Just calling that parameter.
Yes, it's like what we can say, just a practice, good practice to write self. But you can name it anything.
Okay.
Whatever you want. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, how we can access our attributes and methods? Now we have wrote a class, then introduced attributes and methods, and we have created an object called dog. Now, what if you want to print name of our dog? So all you have to do is dog or object dot. Now when we print dot, it's going to access all the attributes and methods we have been written in our class. As you can see, there is age, name, address. Let's say I'm printing name, and we'll run this file. Here, check, right? I will comment out this code. So Jack, if I say dot age, it will print age 5 and address will be Pune, as we have been specified it statically by writing it hard coded. And say I'm creating another object named cat animal. Cat's name is, let's say, kitty, and age is 3. print cat dot name Pune and Kitty. It's a dog dot name. Okay, now we have two objects, dog and cat. Now dog have name Jack and cat have name Kitty. Okay. So this way you can access attributes. Now how you can access methods. Now dog is have method intro. So I'm going to how we just call functions is write a function's name and just give parameters or parentheses and parameters in it. Now our intro method isn't accepting any parameters, so we aren't writing anything in parentheses. It's just blank. Now this is going to call this method in our class, right? So dog and intro. My name is Jack. Sorry, I should write this. My name is Jack. So this print function is getting executed when we call this method.
So we have to call in this method only या init method या कहीं पे भी?
No, actually now we have this dog object outside of our class, right? So you can access any method in our class using just that object dot and then method name. It can be anywhere, right? Outside of class. We have defined class, then we are creating object of it outside of it, right? Class is just a representation of attributes and methods this class is going to have. So let me just minimize it. Now there is a class named animal. Now we know animal is going to have name and all address, all of that. Now we want to create object of animal, right? Now this object is obviously going to be outside of our class, right? So that's why we are just writing it in our main program.
Outside of the class of method.
Class object is created from class.
Okay.
Object is created from class. So we have been writing class and then creating object from that class, right? Got it? Or is there any confusion?
No.
Okay, so same way you can write methods in our class and access them using dot operator. Just like in it there are yes Lakshmi.
So as we have created dog and cat, two objects of the class animal,
Yes,
right? So it is based on the parameters which you are passing to the constructor, right?
yes.
Okay, if constructor is non-parameterized, then your object should be like that only. Means in it, if you haven't passed anything like name and age, if you remove this, then in creating a object, you have to remove the parameters as well, right?
Yes, right.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Now, and if I don't have to pass parameters to our constructor, then I don't have to define init method also. Like we can define, but there will be no use of it, right? Because we aren't passing any parameters to it for initialization.
Okay. And can we define the init method, means having two parameter, having one parameter, means duplicate init method, like overloading?
Let's try it. I have tried it. If we can have multiple init methods with different type of parameters, right?
Yes.
Let's say self.name equal to
No, name will not take.
yeah, like
you can, you can pass. Yes, static you can pass.
Name.
Color.
Oh, sorry.
Different one. Parameter. Same.
And if we create one more object, then will it be created?
Okay, let's try it.
It should be
Sorry.
left in.
You can make that cat.
So this is showing me redeclared init define above without usage. Okay. So
So you have to use it and just remove the parameters from the cat object. That can also work. No?
Or we can just create another object. We'll just see if both object can be created. Anyway. Okay. Now print dog2 dot name. See what happens. Okay, init takes one positional argument, but 3 were given. All right. So it like we did yesterday, the function which is defined later is going to be considered as our main function. So this
Okay.
init is going to be updated by this init,
Okay, okay. ठीक है.
right?
Okay. Yeah, got it.
All right. Thank you. What you can do is just pass default value to this parameters, right? Name and age. Now, even if you don't provide any parameter to our constructor, it will just create default create attributes with default value, name and age 0. Okay. So let's say doctor.
But same method with different parameter can work.
Sorry.
Same method name with different parameter.
Yes, it can work.
That
Yes. Let's say I'm not providing anything. Print doc2.name. Now this should just print name. Here, name. It's a default value. We haven't passed any parameter, so we have to define default values for our parameters if we are not passing them in our constructor or in our object initialization. Actually, we cannot call this constructor. It's an initialization because in Python the object gets created even before init. So, but it's working it same, so we can call it. So, okay. So, class and object. Right. This can be enough for explaining class, right? So this is how you can create class. Write a class keyword, then class name, give a colon, then in indented mode, write you can write these attributes which are just variable of our class, and methods are functions defined in our class. All right. Functions can work on these attributes of their classes. So this function is accessing, this intro function is accessing name of the same class. Okay. Now we'll move on to abstraction. So, all right. Sorry. Before that, there are methods, a type of methods for our class. There are static method, instance method, and class methods. Types of methods. There is static, instance, and class. I'll just explain them to you. Okay, so it will be easier. Now, what is instance method? Now, any method which is taking self as its parameter. Here is self is its parameter. So these are instance method. These methods can access class data, right? Using self parameter. So if you write any method, let's say another method, defers, let's say fly, needs taking self and print I cannot fly. Now even fly is an instance method because it's accessing instance of class. Self is an instance of class, right? So like this is basically any method with self as a parameter. This works as instance method. Then there is a static method. Now you can create a method without passing self. So def and walk. Print I am walking. What's the difference between these two are? What's the error? Okay. All right. So when we won't pass self, we have to specify that it's a static method using @ above our method. This can be too much to learn at first, but you will get around it using by practicing it. So for basically, you can just remember it. If self is in parameter, it's an instance. If self isn't in parameter, then it's a static method. A static method can be accessed from our class without even creating an object. What we are doing is we are creating an object of animal, which is dog, and then accessing intro, right? We cannot just write animal.intro. So actually this did rotate. Let's see what this prints. All right, it's giving error because there isn't any object initialized for this animal class. But what if I
Prathamesh,
don't?
hello.
Yes.
Can you repeat that last sentence? What is static and non-static? Like
Oh, right.
added static method? Yeah, those are static only, right? Added, and those we are not declare added static. It's non-static, right? In this.
It's instance methods. So right, whenever you pass self, so those are instance
Mhm.
methods. So for
Okay.
method to run, there is always require of object. So if you don't create object of this class and just access this method using just class name and dot fly, it won't run because it's these methods are going to need an instance of our class. Okay, that's
Okay.
called as instance method. As you can know, object is called as instance of class, right? So object is
Yes.
just nothing but a small part of our class. So that's why instance of class. And static method don't
Okay.
need, right? So I can just call walk using animal.walk. Here I'm walking, right?
Hmm.
We haven't even created an object but access the method in our class using static method. So that's a static method.
Okay.
And is a static instance and class methods. Okay, so what is class method is just like we have declared here static method, there is also class method decorator. So yeah, these are called decorator. Okay, it's a term, we'll be learning it later, but right now just remember that if you want to specify static method, you just have to add the rate before our function and just write static method. It's a decorator for our method. Now what is class method? Now class method is just used to manipulate the class itself. Now I don't think it's worth the explaining like how it's working and all, because it's rarely used. You can look for it, class methods, just for overview. Look for class methods. Okay, we are just having 5 minutes now. This all sums up our complete class and objects, right? So just for summary, class is nothing but an representation of in a real life entity. Animal is in real life entity. Then we provide attributes and methods to our class. Attributes are what we can call variables in our class, and methods are just functions written in our class. Okay, so and object, what is object? Object is just an instance of our class which can have different attributes and can call methods of our class to represent those attributes. Okay, like dog can have different name and age, cat can have different name and age, and both are using same class. So that's how object and class works. Now let's abstraction. I wrote it long time ago. Let's just cover it. What is abstraction is we can create an abstract class. Okay, so all right, sorry for that, but before learning abstraction we have to learn inheritance, because when we create an abstracted class we have to inherit it to implement abstracted method, right? So if we create a shape as an abstraction method which can be which can calculate area, we have to create again circle class which can be calculating circles area and rectangles area. So let's get inheritance. How inheritance works? Inheritance is a parent child relationship. There is a parent class and then there is a child class. Now what happens is these both are different classes. Now what if our parent class have some attributes and some methods? Now child is going to use same. Now in our basic method we have to write them both, right? In our parent class also and in our child class also. Let's say parent have a name and child also have a name. So when we create a child class we have to specify self dot name and all. What if we want to we don't want to do that? It's just a repetition of the same code, right? So we can just inherit the previous class in our lower class, and inheritance will just access the attributes and methods from our parent class also. So let's just say right now we have animal class right here, and I will create another class called person class person, which can inherit animal, because person is also animal, right? So to inherit, we just have to pass parent class in our parameter for our class as a parameter. Sorry, yeah, animal. As you can see, we are writing class named person, and it's inheriting animal class. Okay. Now, if you look at animal class, we haven't given any parameter because it's not inheriting any other class. But if we have to inherit from any other class, we can give it as a parameter to our class. Now, if we just define a method here, let's say def and intro, or let's say person name, print self dot name, self dot. When I did self dot, we are getting name, age, intro, walk, all of these functions, right? But we haven't even defined them. So those are in our animal class, and as we are inheriting it, those all can be accessed here in child class. Let's just say dot name. Now I want to create an object of name Jack person. Jack is a person. Now we haven't defined any init method for this, but we can pass name and age to this object, right? Let's say name is Jack and age is 25. Now there isn't any init method for in our person class, but there is an init method in animal class. So what happens is when we pass this these parameters to our object, this all will get assigned to our parent class, which is animal. So this init is going to call, and this element, these attributes are going to set whatever we passed here. If I print Jack dot name, it will work correctly as Jack here, Jack, right?
There are two classes in same file.
Yes, you can import class from another file and inherit from it, but then you have to import it. So
This is allowed, right?
Yeah.
Python.
yes, this is allowed. You can also import a class from another file and then inherit it. That's how inheritance is work. Now this is just simple inheritance, like we are just inheriting one class. What if we have to inherit both classes? And so there are two classes, father and mother, and child can inherit both classes, right? So we can just give a comma and specify another class which we want to inherit. But if we did that, then we have to call the init method of our parent class explicitly, because both classes can have same attributes or same methods. And if you are just passing parameters in our object initialization, then it may get confused which initialization method to call. If you are inheriting two classes, both classes are having same attributes, right? Mother can have name, father can have name. So which one to call? So that's why we have to call the init method of parent class. We can write here our own init method. Init. And how we can call parent init method is using, it's accepting name and age and animal dot init name age. Here, so this is how you can call explicitly, right? Before we did we haven't specified init method, and it was just calling this init method automatically from our child class to parent class. When we passed Jack and 25, you can call init method of our parent class explicitly using that class name, creating its an instance object using parenthesis dot init. Let's run it. Oh, there is an error. Person has no attribute name. Huh? Just a second. Oh, so we are writing super, right? What super is doing is super just points to our parent class. Like self was pointing to class itself, super is pointing to parent class. But what we did earlier was like writing animal here. I don't know why this isn't working. I will just look it today and we'll tell you tomorrow. Okay. Just write it here.
Super is calling both the parent and init class.
Right now we have only one parent, but if you are both parents, yeah, then we have to call them by their name. Like I was doing animal and then calling its init method.
Okay,
So-
so there are multiple parents. who
Yes.
is, doing super.
Yes. So that's why we are calling super. So super is pointing to only one class. But if you are having a more than one class is inherited, then we have to specify which class to call first. I will look for it and will tell you tomorrow. Right, it's 12:32. So should we continue tomorrow? Thank you. Mandar, any doubt?
No, till now. I need to try that code and
Actually, you have to practice these things. So only that's when you can get around it. So it's a bit hard to learn at first. But when yes. So what you can do is for an assignment after file manipulations, you can create a class like a person, then create another class employee. So employee can inherit person, right? I will just write here problem statement. Create person class and create employee class. Then set attributes in attributes like name, age, address in person. Set attributes like
Means like,
Sa-
person class will be parent and employee will be
child, right? Salary and mobile number in employee. Okay, and then access data from employee class. Okay, so we can in today's meeting here, we will start again tomorrow.
okay.